Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover Warren 20 here, and I'm here. I'm once again finishing another series I started back last Halloween, which was the Halloween horror movie reviews, and it's for a long-running franchise. And let's just say I reviewed its first three movies, and now I'm going to be continuing the series, especially since remember since Spiral is still coming out May for now. I mean, it's kind of now bumped up a week to May 14th, 2021. And when I saw that, I decided to finish off the Saw series in time for this movie to come before this movie comes out. So, we all know that my last Saw review was Saw 3. This time this is kind of strange. Saw 3 ended with the death of Jigsaw. You'd think there'd be no more movies after that, right? The Saw series would very much be finished, with the killer dead. Well, no. Lionsgate clearly saw the bucks they were making with the Saw movies, so they decided to run the franchise into the ground and make several more sequels, beginning with this. And again, if you're in Hollywood, it's all about money, money, money. Well, then again, we all know Saw became an absolute phenomenon, which is very impressive how a small $1 million budgeted horror film garnered strong word of mouth and made such great big bucks at the box office with over $100 million worldwide, becoming the most profitable horror movie since Scream, and surpassed Cabin Fever as Lionsgate's most profitable horror film, and spawned a sequel next year, which became Lionsgate Films' yearly bread and butter. Basically, it was pretty much a tradition whenever a TV spot would air on TV. A TV spot would begin with the slogan, "If it's Halloween, it must be Saw," since all the Saw movies would always get released every Halloween back in the 2000s. It was like a Halloween tradition for the studio. So of course, I really enjoyed the first film and consider one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and then next year, the sequel we got, Saw 2, was also a pretty good movie. Maybe not as good as the first one, but it was definitely a good follow-up to Saw 1. And then, of course, a year after Saw 2, we got a third one. And while still good, it showed franchise was kind of starting to go downhill. It kind of started getting a little bit excessive. And then we got this film a year after for no reason. Just to bring in more big bucks of gore, 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 gore. Yeah, and shock value. This one just struggles to stay consistent with the numerous plot strands and filling up of plot holes. It literally just feels like an extreme connect the dots puzzle as one tries to piece together all the characters and incidents from the previous installments. Even when watching it, you could literally imagine internet forums swarming with hundreds of questions. What is this film about? Well, this film is actually not really a sequel per se, it's actually a midquel set during the events of Saw 3. So technically this movie's the other half of Saw 3. So basically if you watch Saw 3 and this back to back, it's kind of all just one big 3-hour movie, if you think about it. So, SWAT Commander Rigg has become obsessed with finding Jigsaw, particularly since his fellow officers have died via his sadistic games, and Eric Matthews is still missing. Especially since he's now found Carrie's dead body after she was killed in Saw 3. However, Jigsaw finds Rigg since apparently Rigg has this obsession with saving people and failing every time, whenever he's told not to and told to just stay away. So Jigsaw finds Rigg and has him play his own game, with two of his colleagues, Officer Matthews and Hoffman, held captive in one of Jigsaw's trap. Sort of Hoffman I'll get to later in a bit, and it's going to be a bit of spoilers, guys. Rigg has 90 minutes to try and find them. Meanwhile, FBI agent Starman Perez questioned Jigsaw's ex-wife, Jill Tuck, in an effort to uncover Jigsaw's mysterious accomplice. Seriously, what made the first one so unique was that the victims are often people who deserve to be punished. Be they drug dealers or con artists frantically trying to save themselves from the macabre situation they put themselves in. With Jigsaw's judge, jury, and executioner, do we as an audience side with this objective, or do we sympathize with the wrongdoing victim during their last few seconds so they die a fantastic death? As the sequels progress, saving oneself appears to have been completely abandoned. For its third installments, and for the third installment as well as this one, this gets to the part where some victims simply have to wait to depend upon someone to help them. And some supposedly innocent people are dragged in. Like, in the beginning of the movie, there's this guy with his eyes soon shut is involved in the film's probably best trap, but we never know who he is. Like, who was he? How did he end up there? Like, we have no idea how he ended up there. He just ended up there for some reason. While some injured victims are merely swept aside, we never know if they live or die. Seriously, it's like they tried to make a bigger sequel. The games were no longer in one confined space, but this would go on for the rest of the movies, guys. They'd be set in different locations across the city, pushing suspension of disbelief to the limit. Like, for example, Riggs' apartment is literally turned upside down within a matter of minutes, with blood on the walls, pictures hanging from the ceiling, how someone managed to get a scalping chair up there without anyone noticing is literally beyond me. Like, something. I like the distancing from the previous movies, but this was a slight shift towards this. Basically, this is where Saw just started to feel like your typical slasher movie, where they just went the slasher route now. And acting-wise, it's mediocre. Well, one exception is obviously Tobin Bell. He's probably born to play Jigsaw, see no one else really playing him in the role. He pretty much became a bankable name just because of the Saw franchise. Well, not really. He'd go on to direct in several crap direct-to-DVD horror films like Boogeyman 2. Probably still fans that probably still like Ghost House Pictures thinks that if there are any fans of the first one, they'll actually try to give the Boogeyman franchise a chance, which failed. A number of small stars delivered the film and helped keep the cost down. For me, the only other name that really stands out is Donnie Wahlberg, and even as Eric Matthews, and even he's literally wasted. He's basically just in a trap the whole movie, and then just automatically gets killed off at the end. And as expected, it's frequently relied on flashbacks, so it just made me feel like I was watching a soap opera than a horror, but thankfully Darren Lynn Bousman does fulfill an account of gore, pushing Saw forward with the in-your-face violence and closeness that probably want to pass through the BFC with it. Seer stuff. Well, here's my recommendation. Okay, before I get to that part, here's how the twist ending goes. So Rig gets there, but gotcha! It turns out Rig should have not been playing the game all along. Apparently, him playing the game and trying to save them only costed Eric Matthews his death, because by the time Eric enters the final room where Matthews is in, this trap goes off with these ice blocks and it crushes his head and he's dead. So basically, Rick just got Matthews killed. If you guys hated Jeff in the third one, Rig is probably single-handedly among the second stupidest Saw protagonist behind Bobby from Saw 3D. I'd say Bobby and Rig are probably the two stupidest Saw protagonists in franchise history. Basically, but before Eric Matthews dies, he ends up kind of shooting Rig, trying to prevent him from coming in the room, and there's this other guy named Art who's supervising the whole Eric Matthews trap, and when he's trying to explain that Jigsaw was just testing him, he then basically, as soon as Art decides to play Rig's tape, he immediately shoots Art, but then, boom, it reveals that the tape was actually warning him not to play the game, and that him playing the game only got Matthews killed, and Hoffman killed, but that's just the tip of it. Hoffman was revealed to not be in danger at all. Like, the trap that Hoffman's a part of, it doesn't set off or anything, and you already get a suspicious feeling, and it turns out Hoffman was actually a Jigsaw accomplice. It pretty much sets off the Hoffman story arc. And so, yeah. He then leaves Rick to die. Eventually, Strom did get to the sick room that takes place at the end of Saw 3. he shot Jeff Denlin down, killed him after he tried to thinking he took his daughter, but then Strom thankfully shoots him down, and not really like anyone cared. I didn't care when he died. I was pretty glad he did because of how much of a fool he was, and basically let everyone die by taking forever in Saw 3. Jeff would be third stupidest Saw protagonist. Then again, a lot of the protagonists in the Saw sequels later Saw sequels are such idiots anyway, so if you are kind of a fan of the franchise, but you'll probably be roped along for the ride, but it's a shame that was once so original 3 years ago, now feels stale and just feels like an average slasher franchise. There aren't even any jumpy moments like the first 3 had. Then again, 2000s had a rush job nature of dishing out sequels. And of course, the ending all know. There's a morgue for John Kramer. Hoffman finds a tape in his body and warns that he will be tested. So yeah, there's gonna be 3 more sequels. Well, it's not as bad as the next one, I will say, but here's how I'll rank this movie. I am going to give Saw 4 a 5 out of 10. Well, it's one of the newer sequels down, and 3 more to go. Actually, 4 more, considering that we had another one in 2017. Well, this is it. This is going to be counting down to Spiral, so anyway, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching, and if you'd like to want to see more, then don't forget to like and subscribe to Movie Lover 120.